Hello, I am here to talk about my top 10 books of the year. So starting with number 10, it's going to be Our Dining Table, which is a BL manga, and I love this so much. I watched the BL drama for this before. I didn't know that this was a manga when I watched the drama, but it's just as good as the drama, honestly. It's so comforting. It is just such a sweet story. It follows Yutaka, who is like an office worker who's just kind of like coasting through his life. Nothing really brings him that much joy. He's pretty lonely. And one day he's eating his lunch in a park and a little boy runs up to him and wants his food. And the little boy's older brother comes along and they form this little found family, and it is the sweetest story truly ever. It's a very simple story. There's not like anything super crazy in it, but that's kind of what I like about it. I like that it's just simple, wholesome, sweet. There's really not that much else to say about it other than this is just fantastic and gives me a lot of comfort, and I definitely think I'm going to end up rereading and rewatching multiple times this year because I need the comfort. Coming in at number 9 is A Song for the Wild Built. This story follows a tea monk who is on a bit of a journey, and on this journey comes across a robot. The robot itself is also on a journey to basically answer the question, what do people need? Which this just is, again, wholesome. Moscap, the robot, is easily one of my all-time favorite characters. Another very comforting read, another simple read, but still like very poignant and like makes you think. But yeah, highly recommend. It's very calming, I guess. And number 8 is What Moves the Dead. This one follows a retired soldier who goes and meets his childhood friend who is dying, and chaos happens. This is very fungus based, very mushroomy, very body horror, just everything I love in horror is in this. I really like the dynamics between all the characters. There's a scientist and a doctor, and of course the childhood friend, the soldier. Like, there's just there's so many different relationships going on between how they interact with each other and how they process and deal with what is going on with the fungus. That is just like a very intense and very like enticing read. I was very invested in the story. I listened to the audiobook of this on a car ride up to my grandparents over the summer, and it was just, I was trying really hard not to like squirm because it was just like creepy, but I love it. Gothic horror with mushrooms. In 7th, I put The King's Men, but I could honestly put the entire All for the Game series here. This is a series about a fictional sport called Xe and the mafia and gangs and very mentally ill, troubled people. And Xe is similar to like lacrosse, but much more violent and co-ed and full of chaos. The story follows Neil, who is on the run from his past and doesn't really intend to play Xe at this university on this team, but couldn't really pass the offer up and ends up joining this found family, basically, but a very dysfunctional, very chaotic found family. And that is all I'm gonna say, because if I say anything else, I feel like it just spoils things. But I adore this series. At the same time, would I recommend it? Probably not. It is very toxic. It is full of trigger warnings. If you ever ever think about picking this book up, this series up, check the trigger warnings. There are a lot. And not gonna lie, I'm on like hockey Twitter, and there was a tweet recently about goalies and the fact that goalies should like blame the players kind of vibe. I don't remember exactly what the tweet said. I will like put a screenshot if I can find it. But people, I guess, brought up Andrew. And now Hockey Twitter has discovered Andrew and All for the Game. So my interests are overlapping, and also that's insane. In number 6, we have Heaven Official's Blessing, Volume 1. Of course we do, because I read this and now I can't move on. And I'm reading the second one at the moment and also losing my mind. What is this even about? It's about a heavenly official who was like banished but comes back and goes on an adventure and meets somebody on this adventure, and the rest of the books I think is about them interacting. But how do you even describe this book? It's Danmei. It's my first Danmei. It's BL. Nothing very BL has happened yet, but I am rooting for it regardless. I mostly was just like hooked on how interesting everything is like communicated. The writing style is very fun and very fantasy, very slow burn. Yeah, anyways, highly recommend. I just don't know how to describe this book, so that's what you get. In 5th place, we have Darker by 4. This is a book about a girl who is honing her magic to avenge her mother's death, and a boy who is black sheep of his family, and he doesn't have magic. They meet, stuff happens, there's demons, there's kind of seemed like there was going to be a love triangle, but not really. Yo. I really lost my mind reading this. I gave it 5 stars so easily. This book was addicting, and I didn't realize that it was part of a series. I thought it was a standalone, so now I desperately need the second book, like right now, because I need to know what happens after the end of that. I need to know what happens to my babies. On Goodreads, it says perfect for fans of This Savage Song, which, if you know me, you should know I love This Savage Song, and I feel like that comparison is pretty good. The vibes are there. The character vibes are there. Yeah, fantastic. Also, audiobook was incredible. In 4th, we have Air. I don't know how to describe this book because technically it's a new series, but it is connected to An Ember in the Ashes, so it still feels like I'm giving spoilers. Basically, it's a trio. How would you describe that? It has 3 POVs. An orphan, an outcast, and a prince, as it says. And they navigate this world, and basically there's one girl who grows up in the slums, and she's looking for vengeance on something. Another girl who was banished from her people because she committed an unforgivable crime. So she has to now hunt down a killer that is murdering children. And a prince who is also searching for a killer. I feel like I described that terribly, but I don't know how to describe this without spoilers, so basically I would obviously recommend to read An Ember in the Ashes first because it gives you all the world building and all the characters are in this, and it takes place after An Ember in the Ashes, but technically you could read this without it. I just wouldn't recommend it. And I loved it for so many reasons. One, Sabatier's writing is just incredible to me. I love her. I loved seeing all the characters from An Ember in the Ashes and seeing where they ended up after the end of that series. And Saoirse, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, I love her so bad. New favorite character. Third is Blood Over Brighthaven. This is about a girl who is trying to become the first woman high mage, and she meets a guy who is, I believe, a janitor at the time that becomes her assistant, and they clash, but it helps her open her eyes to what her society has been doing and what the High Magistry has been doing, and that it wasn't what she dreamed it would have been and what she's been working for her whole life. The magic system is really, really cool, all based around like typing. Yeah, once again, I am not good at describing books, but I loved this. Definitely recommend looking up trigger warnings because it does have quite a few, but this had such a strong emotional punch that I wasn't expecting. I know people talk about The Sword of Kaigen by this author a lot, and they always say how emotionally devastating it was. Blood Over Brighthaven is also emotionally devastating, in case you were wondering. Yeah, honestly, the main reason why it's in third is because I thought the magic system was so cool, and that I thought, in general, it was a very deep book. It had a lot of depth to it. In second, we have Mistborn, because of course, Mistborn also follows two main characters, Vin and Kelsier, in this world where the magic system is based on metal. You burn certain metals to get certain abilities, and they're basically trying to take down an empire, and it's them trying to do that. I feel extremely late to this book and this series and Brandon Sanderson works in general, but I get the hype now. I've only read one out of 24, but I love this. I did a tandem read of this physically and the audiobook, and I think that was the right move because anytime I got text heavy, it's a lot, the audiobook really helped. So yeah, I think the world is really cool, the magic system's really cool. I really like Vin, and I'm very excited to see where she goes, and where this resistance goes from here. Yeah, fantastic. I get the hype. And I feel like I don't even need to say number one, because if you've watched me on anything, you should know who my favorite author is, and you should know that he had a book come out this year. So of course it's number one, Compound Fracture by Andrew Joseph White. This is about a trans autistic teen who survives an attempted murder and then has to be drawn into a generational struggle between the poor and those who exploit them. Yes, I did read that directly from Goodreads. it's so good. So good, guys. Miles, I would die for. Miles, I love you so bad. That is my son. I would die to protect Miles. All the characters on the good side are incredible, and I love them. And they're all just so complex and imperfect and flawed, and I just love them so much. Every character that Andrew writes digs themselves into my soul. These characters are so important. I can't. This is, as usual, very gruesome and very heart-wrenching and intense. This is more thriller than horror, I would say, when it comes to Andrew's books. The other ones are more horror. This is definitely more thriller. yeah, very queer, very autistic, fantastic. There's just something special. They just hit different. All of Andrew's books hit different. And this one is no different. It was a 5-star. Anyways, those were my top 10 favorite books of the year. Let me know some of yours. Let me know all of yours. Let's talk about our favorite books. And if you haven't read any of these and they sounded interesting, please check them out, and also let me know what you think, because even if you hate it, I want to know. I love hearing people's opinions. And yeah,